Hello everyone and welcome to a Redstone tutorial on how to build this infinite fuel farm, or in other words, automatic kelp smelting battery. Now this farm is really efficient and it's super useful for turning kelp into kelp blocks, and it's also renewable so that once you get your kelp blocks you can feed it back into the system to get more kelp blocks, which is really great for powering your own furnaces or your super smelters. And this farm is one of my own designs. However, it is inspired highly by xisuma's own kelp battery. However, no one has yet made this tutorial on a farm similar to this or on a kelp battery nonetheless, so that's why I'm making this tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys the concept of how this uses infinite fuel, how this farm works, how to operate it, and how to actually build the farm block by block, which we'll do later in the episode in this square over here. So basically, this whole farm operates on the concept of infinite fuel. So for this farm to work, basically we have smoker just like these ones that we have all around over here, but I'm just showing this one for the whole concept. And basically kelp filters through on the top of the smoker, which will then be smelted, and you will have some sort of fuel, in this instance a dried kelp block, which you will later on use to fuel this whole system over here. And what happens is this dried kelp block starts, smelting of the kelp, and you get dried kelp. And this one dried kelp block will smelt 20 pieces of kelp, so you get 20 pieces of dried kelp. However, if you look in the crafting table over here, you can see that dried kelp blocks only comprise of 9 pieces of dried kelp. So you're actually getting extra fuel for what you get. You'll get 20 pieces of dried kelp, which will make a minimum of 2 kelp blocks, which is great because you'll get double the amount of fuel plus a little extra. So that's what this whole farm works off of. You put in some fuel over here, which will smelt the kelp, then you'll get double the fuel. Of course, after that will go back into the system, and then you'll already have some extra fuel on the side, which of course you can use for your own smelting purposes, which is not going to be kelp. You can use it for smelting sand or using it on your super smelter. So that's what this whole farm is based off of. So just like as I explained, we've got the kelp smelted up here. As you can see, we put one dry kelp block, if you remember. So now we've got dry kelp over here. We've got 20 pieces of dry kelp. Now if I place down a crafting table, you can see that we get 2 pieces of dry kelp blocks, just like that. So that means we get double the amount that we put in with a little extra dry kelp on the side. So then if you have multiple of these smokers over here and you have 2 of them, or maybe 3 of them, then you can always get extra dry kelp to make extra blocks at the end, which is really great because then you can put one dry kelp block back into the system here, and you can see that we've got one extra dry kelp block and 2 pieces of dry kelp spare. So that's how you get the infinite fuel. You see, from one dry kelp block, we got an extra dry kelp block and 2 extra dry kelp pieces on the side. So that's how this whole farm works. Of course, then you can start putting your extra dry kelp back in the system like I just did here. You see, we're going to get 20 more pieces of dry kelp, and then this fuel you can use for whatever you like. And that's what happens in this farm. What you have is you have your kelp input, which is signified by this little green concrete pipe over here. The kelp filters through these hoppers and they start going along this outside ring of hoppers. As you can see, they filter into each of the next hoppers and they go all the way around. Now, underneath this chain of hoppers, we got another chain of hoppers which goes straight down into the smokers, like you can see here, and they filter straight into the smokers. So what happens is the kelp comes through the input signified by the green concrete, like I said, and what happens is it'll go through this top chain of hoppers. Now, because of the bottom chain of hoppers underneath, when an item goes through this top chain, it will check if this bottom hopper can pull it out. And now, because this bottom hopper is empty, it will pull out an item. So let's say this will be a piece of kelp. It'll go into the system and go down into the smoker. As you can see, it'll go into this bottom hopper, which will then feed down into the smoker. Now, if we get some kelp, like we see here, we will have some kelp going like this. You can see it's going down the system, down this chain of hoppers. As you can see, it's flashing here, and then it'll start being picked out by this bottom hopper and going into the smoker. Now, once the smoker is full, of course, we're going to get some kelp piling up over here. And then once this whole segment over here is piled up, like I'm showing you right now, you'll start to get kelp moving into the next smoker, like we see over here. And then once this happens, it keeps on going until the kelp is full in this whole system over here. And then once that happens, the kelp will start backing up in these two hoppers over here. And basically, you'll come back to this point over here where your kelp intake will happen. Now, backing up is not necessarily a very good thing, so that's why I've also made this little lever over here so that you can stop the flow of kelp if you ever need to, because it'll block the kelp input. You can see that it locks this hopper so that kelp will not continue flowing through. As you can see, this still has 2 kelp and this still keeps the 62. So it's important to keep this lever here just in case you don't want to back up the entire system. And that's also how the fuel system works as well. So when you start off the farm, you also have this chest over here. Now this chest is where you'll put in your fuel. So at the beginning, you might not have lots of dry kelp blocks, so you can use literal placeholder blocks at the moment. So maybe something like wood will do at the moment. And you put all your wood in here, for example. And you can see this lamp turns on just to signify that fuel is going into the system. And basically what will happen is these bottom hoppers underneath the chest will start pulling out the wood as we saw. And will go across this chain of hoppers, similar to what we had at the top, but this time it's only one block down. And just like we had at the top, these bottom hoppers will pull what's in the top hopper down and go straight into the smoker. So as you saw, we have some oak planks over here. And once the kelp makes its way all the way down to this smoker, it'll automatically start smelting. So it's also a good idea to maybe have a safety switch on this side as well, just in case you want to stop the flow of fuel. This way it's also lag friendly so that your smokers aren't always on if you want them to be, and this kind of works as an on off switch, both of these levers here. And just like the kelp block, the fuel will fill up these hoppers over here, then they'll go on to the next hopper, and then it'll automatically get backed up all the way down to here, and then the fuel will start backing up on this top chain of hoppers, which is why I highly recommend putting this lever here. And the reason that I use an alternative fuel source at the beginning is because you might not have the dry kelp blocks to start off this farm when you initially make it. So having a different, fuel source at the beginning just to fill in these slots over here so that you can get your farm working so that all of these kelp pieces start smelting up and start making the dry kelp blocks so that you can start putting back into the system. And that's when it becomes infinite once you have dry kelp blocks smelting the kelp and then you have dry kelp blocks fueling all of these smokers here, and that's when it truly becomes infinite. And this will be super effective because you've got 7 on each side here, so you've got 21 smokers for all of that to happen, so you will produce loads of spare kelp blocks. Then once all the smelting is done, these hoppers underneath the smokers will start sucking out the dry kelp over here because it will not turn into dry kelp blocks straight away. You need to craft them, like I showed you. So basically, the dry kelp will start, going into this hopper here and down into this dropper. As hopefully I can show you. Let's put some wood in here, and hopefully there will be some dry kelp starting to form. So you'll see dry kelp there start forming. This hopper will suck it down and go into this dropper over here. Then, of course, after lots of time passes, this whole dropper will be full of dry kelp, like I just showed you, and that will happen across all the droppers there. Now I've got a little system over here which has a pressure plate attached to some redstone wiring, which I'll show you later on when we actually build the actual farm over here. And when you step on this pressure plate, this dropper spits out the dry kelp, and this water funnels it down all the way to where you're standing next to this crafting table, where you can start crafting up your dry kelp blocks and putting them back into the system, like I've just shown you. And then of course this will work its way all the way around into here. So eventually we'll see it. Actually no, it'll be on this side over here within a minute. If we go here, oh no, this is locked. So you can see the dry kelp block is here. If you unlock it, it'll start funneling down into this smoker and start working its way all the way around like I just showed you. And that's how this farm works. You just stand on this pressure plate over time, and if you let these smokers run, you'll get loads of dry kelp, and you can start turning into hundreds and hundreds of dry kelp blocks. And just like I explained, once this alternative fuel source runs out, then the dry kelp blocks that you just made will go into the system. So imagine this was fully smelted, there's no longer existent. And this dry kelp block, which you start putting back into the system, will come down here and start making it infinite. So now when it comes to operating, I've really explained everything that you need to learn. The only thing, like I showed you, to manually operating this farm is just standing on this pressure plate and right clicking this crafting table over here and just turning the dry kelp into dry kelp blocks and then putting them back into the system. The only other things that you really need to know is just put some levers on this hopper here and on this hopper here so that you can lock them just in case there's too much fuel input or too much kelp input. And then we've got this little comparator next to this light bulb over here so that if the fuel is backed up, you got a little indicator. You can also do that on this side if you'd really like to show you if the kelp is backed up as well. However, there is another component that you might want to learn how to use, which is the XP bank itself. Because of the way that I've constructed this farm also works as an XP bank. So once this whole system gets full of dry kelp underneath, like I'm showing you, I'm just filling this whole system up with dry kelp like I'm doing. If you just keep doing this over here, and I keep adding the dry kelp to the bottom, this whole system will start to become full like I'm doing. You can see it's starting to go into the hopper. Now this dropper will start being backed up. Then once this hopper is backed up, the dry kelp can no longer be sucked down, which is really a bad thing, but also a good thing. It's bad because you've got lots of fuel blocking the system, so no more fuel can go out, and it's kind of like an automatic stopper to show the farm will be overloaded, which is a good thing because you don't want too much fuel being produced. And if you stand on here for a long time, lots of and your inventory is full, lots of spare items will cause lag. So that's really a good thing, and it's also a good thing because it'll also, like I said, automatically stop the smoker from smelting, and this will also preserve your fuel a little better. But once this does stop the smokers from smelting, you will see that we'll get this here. Once it starts this from smelting, the dry kelp will start piling up in here and will no longer be sucked down. Now when this happens and you got all your dry kelp stuck in here, of course I can't simulate that because I'm not allowed to put dry kelp in there, it won't let me. But once that happens and this smoker turns off, because this is a full stack, and you have a damaged item, it works as an XP bank because it smelted so many pieces of kelp over here, like I've just shown you, and you've never actually collected the XP. Because as you all know, if you play survival Minecraft and you pull sometimes items out of a furnace which have just been smelted, you get a little bit of XP. However, we've got smelted around over 9 stacks of items here, and we still haven't pulled a single item out. So you can tell that this will have loads of XP in it. So when this is fully backed up and this is a full stack, and this smoker turns off, and you have a damaged item with mending on it, and you pull out the dry kelp, or if you just want to get some levels, you'll get lots and lots of XP. And that's how you can also get XP from this system. And then once, of course, you do that, you can also stand back on the pressure plate to empty it out, and you can have this kind of as an infinite XP bank as well. And that will, of course, apply for all 21 of these smokers. So even if this doesn't repair your tools fully, you still got 20 other smokers to get XP from. Now quickly, just before we start moving on to the building tutorial and the material list on actually how to build this farm block by block, I quickly forgot to mention something that is really important. Now this farm has lots of hoppers involved, and in each hopper, of course, we have 5 slots, which means it can hold up to 5 stacks of a single item. Now, this is something that you might want to add to your fuel part of your farm, which will make it just a little bit more efficient on terms of fuel, and so that it guarantees that each one of these smokers over here turns on simultaneously, so that you just don't have these 5 smokers over here on and then these 5 smokers here on at a different time, rather than having all of these smokers on over here, which is much better because then you'll get much more dry kelp down here in the droppers so that you can start crafting more dry kelp blocks. And what this consists of is grabbing some blocks like something like stone, which cannot be used as a fuel source, and putting them in these item hoppers to fill up these empty spaces like I'm doing over here. You can see that I'm using them like filters. Now if you just use one in each slot, it kind of uses up the slots more efficiently. So rather than having, if you have 10 stacks in this chest over here, you put 10 stacks of dry kelp blocks. Usually 10 stacks will only supply these two smokers over here because this will use up 5 stacks here, 1 stack in the smoker itself, then 5 stacks here and 1 stack in the smoker itself. So really that would only supply 2 smokers. Now if you put these filters in over here like I've just shown you, 10 stacks will supply a lot more. It will actually supply 10 of these smokers like I've just shown you, or like 8 or something like that. You can always adjust it, so you can take out some stone if you want. You can put the amount of dry kelp you want. So you can just put in some dry kelp like I've just shown you, and you will have stacks of quartz like this. It will take up only 3 stacks, or you can only do only 1 stack, whatever you want. So that will also manage the little bit of fuel consumption a little better. That also you don't have to always continuously supply your farm with fuel. And this way, also all of these will have fuel much quicker as well, because you would of course have to wait for all of these smokers over here. You get 5 stacks of fuel, which is going to be a lot. That's 5, 5, 5, 5. Of course, that'll be like 50 before you get down to over here, and that's going to take a lot of time. However, this is much more efficient because it just blocks up some of these hoppers over here, like I've just shown you. You block some of these, and so that the fuel can go around here much quicker because these item hoppers are filled up much quicker. And the dry kelp, which is traveling through the top hopper over here, will see that, oh, this is full, and it cannot go into these slots here because it's stone, and it will just continue traveling until the next vacant position, which might be the last hopper over here. However, you cannot do this with the kelp over here because any item can go into the top spot over here. Any item like even redstone can go into this position here, no matter what. Even if I put in, let's say we got this empty smoker here, I can put in a repeater, and the repeater will still go into the smoker. So you cannot do this with the kelp. Also, I highly recommend not doing it anyway if you find out a way to do it, because the kelp might get backed up, and that might be really devastating for your farm. So just to quickly recap, I highly recommend putting in a few pieces of stone into each hopper over here, so that fuel only needs to fill up one of these spaces in the item hopper, and of course the stone won't go into the smoker, and this way your fuel can travel a lot faster. And personally, I would do this, and I highly recommend that all of you guys do it too. If not, I think it's really just a part of the farm design as well. I think that everyone should be doing this. You only need 1 stone per slot over here, so I highly recommend doing that. Just make sure you do them in the right hoppers though. They're only supposed to go into the hoppers feeding into the backs of the smoker. Anyway, with all of that done now, we can start moving on to how to build the farm. So before we begin, I'm just going to show you guys the materials list. Now, this is all the materials that you're going to need for the farm. They're pretty cheap on the whole. You can pause the video if you want to see all the materials needed. And like I said, they're all very cheap to get, other than, of course, the hoppers. But if you've got an iron farm, that's pretty easy as well. And I highly recommend getting all of these materials because the farm is worth it. And, you know, it's kind of a double farm. You can use it as an XP bank, like I explained. But I highly recommend getting these materials. Anyway, let's get straight into building the farm. So just to make your lives a little easier, I put myself into survival mode so that the materials are limited, so that you can see how the material usage depletes while we build this farm. So as you can see here, we're going to pull out our scaffolding, and you can see where the kelp input would come in, as I've signified with this green line on the floor and up from up there. Now what you're going to do is from the top of this over here, you're going to go on top of your hoppers, which, you know, is the fuel input. And also, just letting you guys know, this border over here is 13 by 13, including the corner blocks. So if you count the corner blocks. So what you're going to do here is you're going to start on this hopper, which is signified by that green block down there. That's directly underneath it. And you're going to build out 1, just like I've done there. Now, if you quickly jump down, like I've done, so you've got 1 dirt block, which the hopper feeds into. Now you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that it's touching the floor. Now, it might not touch the floor in your instance, but this is where you're going to start making the floor. So it's going to go down 7, and then you're going to break another block here and go 8. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in total. So that should be 8 till there. Now on this block is where you start putting in the floor. You build the floor around this block. So as you saw, I broke those two pieces of sandstone, and that's where my floor is going to be. And that's why my floor is on this level. Of course, your floor might not be on that level. Just make sure that you build some sort of floor there, so that it'll be a little bit easier for you guys to build at that level that I've just shown you. So you go 8 blocks down from that hopper, and you build your floor. And I've already done that over here, as you can see, because I've aligned it with the ground. Then what you're going to want to do is start placing in the redstone. So you grab your redstone and you grab your temporary blocks. So you just saw where you placed your temporary blocks. You placed it at this point here. Now you see the input comes in from this side, from there, and you're going to start placing your redstone on the other side, like I'm doing right now. And you're going to place down 7. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like I've just shown you. Then you're going to place an extra one for the corner. Then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again. And then you're going to place an extra one for the corner. And then you're going to repeat, you're going to do 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like I've just done there. And you'll get kind of a square shape, just leaving out this side, of course. Now, this is the point where you start using your redstone repeaters. So you're going to come to this side over here of redstone wiring so that it's opposite no redstone wiring. So you just come to this side and you're going to count out the middle. So for this part here, the middle is going to be 1, 2, 3, middle 1, 2, 3 there. You can see that. Then you're going to place a redstone repeater going into this redstone, as you can see, like just like I've done. And you don't want to put any ticks on this. For all the redstone repeaters we're going to be using, don't put any ticks, just leave it on the lowest. If you want, you can put ticks, but it's probably better that you don't. Then you're going to grab your observers and you're going to place it so that the face of the observer is facing away from the repeater, and so that the redstone output is going in the direction that the repeater is in. So if this observer notices any change, it's going to turn the redstone on. Then what you're going to start doing is breaking the ground a little bit. Now, trust me, it's not going to be a lot, just a little bit, but you're going to have to do this for the farm to work. So you're going to break out 6 blocks, just like I've done over here. Then you're going to break this block underneath observer and this block here. Now place a redstone repeater over here so that it's facing this hole in the ground. Then grab your sticky piston, place it in that hole. Now what you want to go ahead and do is place another observer facing towards that empty block in here, like I've just done now. And so really, this will be your redstone clock. Now you've got 4 more pieces of redstone dust left, and you just want to break down 4 more blocks over here. I've just broken a lot more just to make it more spacious for you guys, and you're going to place all 4, just like I've done there. And that's basically all the redstone circuitry involved in this farm. Now we're going to go on to the next part, which is using all the observers. So for each redstone dust here, you're going to place down an observer on top of it with the face looking at the redstone, because every time the pressure plate activates this system here, this clock is going to turn on and flash this redstone line, which is then going to activate the observers on top of that. And just to place those down is pretty simple. You're going to go on top of your temporary block here, shift click on top of that redstone so that the output is facing up. And if you just mine here, you can see the face is looking down at that redstone. And you're going to do that for all the redstone bars just like this. Of course, though, you have to leave the corners. That's very important. Leave these corners out, otherwise you will run out of observers before you get all the redstone dust. So you're just going to go around all the way around, just like I'm doing here. And you can see it's the perfect amount. You can see that each observer aligns to each piece of redstone dust, except of course the corners, just like I've done here. And then the next part is pretty simple as well. And you're going to really do the same thing just with droppers. However, the droppers this time will be facing towards the center over here of the farm. So you're just going to make the droppers face at the center, not facing towards the top. It will make it a little bit easier for you if you actually use some scaffolding here. So just go around here, use the scaffolding, and just place your droppers on top of each observer, because there's 21 observers around this whole circle here, and just make sure the droppers are facing the inside. Just keep on going like I've done so here, and then you should be all set. And voila, just like that, you're done. Now we're going to move on to the next part, which is using some of our hoppers. So you're going to get your scaffolding, go up a little bit here, just like I'm about to do. And you're going to start placing your hoppers on top of the droppers. So each dropper gets a hopper. And that's going to only use 21 hoppers to begin with. And just keep on doing that. Of course, you need to shift click though, because if you just right click, you're going to open up the dropper. So just shift and then click on all of these spaces here so that each dropper gets a hopper like I'm doing right now. And you should get something that looks very similar to this. And continuing with the simple style, now it's just the same thing with the smokers. We've got 21 smokers as you notice, and you're just going to do the same thing once again. You go all the way around, make sure the smokers are facing the inside, just like with the droppers, and then you just go all the way around and you just make sure that each hopper has a smoker connected, just like that. And really, this is all you need to do, and this is basically the simplest part of the farm. So you guys should have a really easy time doing this. Now we're going to start making the actual platform which the droppers will shoot out the dried kelp onto. So now what you want to do is very simple, is just go in all of these places here and make a 7 by 7 little platform just in front of the observers like this, but so that they don't drop the observers, they don't block the observers. And you just want to make a 7 by 7 little area here, and it should be aligned to that. This doesn't block any redstone wiring and it's on top of this observer. And you just go around all the way around here and just make a little bit platform like I'm doing right now. And you can see where this will look later on in the farm. It'll look like that place there. Now, what you want to do after you make this over here is just do a few changes. Now you see this block here, one away from the last dropper, you want to break that. You want to do the same to the other side, break that one as well. Now, from that block that you just broke, you want to go one to the right and one up and break that one. Then from this one, same one to the left, one up, break that. And you can see like there's a sort of pyramid shape starting to form. So from these two, you're going to go in the middle, go up, and break that. And then for these four remaining blocks, you want to just go ahead and break those like I've shown. So you've got a little kind of pyramid indent into your little platform here. And what you're going to do from there is make a little platform underneath that just to cover up the space one block lower. And that's basically your main platform done. Now this is going to be the part where we're going to use basically all the hoppers. So for every smoker, you want to start placing a hopper behind that feeding into the smoker. So just go ahead, go behind every single smoker. Make sure you don't put it on the sides. Go behind each one and just place a hopper going into the smokers. Don't place hoppers going into each other or anything like that. Just go ahead, make it simple for you guys. Place some hoppers going into the back of the smoker. So if you go around here, you'll be able to see that we've got all these hoppers here going into the backs of the smokers. And that's basically simple enough. Then you're going to go ahead and do is place hoppers going into the tops of the smokers, just like I'm doing now. And this is pretty simple. We've got 21 for the back, of course, then 21 for the top. And we're just doing it very easily. See, it's super simple. So hopefully you guys don't go wrong here. And you can see all the hoppers go into the tops of the smokers and all the hoppers will go into the backs of the smokers just like that. Now notice we still got 53 hoppers left. Now this is where the top chain will come in. So what you're going to go ahead and do is go to the end of this smoke pattern over here and place one hopper on top of this hopper going down. So you should have two hoppers going down, just like this. So you should have a hopper there going straight into smoker and a hopper going straight into that hopper, which will ultimately go back down into the smoker. Then you're going to go ahead and start bringing hoppers and make a little chain which go into that last hopper. So as you can see, I'm starting placing a chain of hoppers which are slowly feeding into this hopper, just like that. And you want to go ahead and do that all the way around here for these 7 smokers, just like that. However, then you're going to go ahead and place an extra hopper that it's on top of that redstone dust, like I've just shown you, and it's on the corner. Then you're going to continue along this side, and you're going to continue the chain, just like I'm doing, just like that, so that you've got another row of hoppers. Then go ahead, place one more on this corner where you've got a redstone dust underneath as well. And then go ahead, place some more hoppers so that you continue the chain all the way down. Just make sure you have the right amount of space needed, and so that it's a whole loop over here, as you can see. So any items that go from this hopper will make its way all the way around there, all the way around there, all the way around there, and down there. Just make sure that that last hopper is going down and not to the right or the left, not to any side. Make sure it's going down. Then your setup should look something similar to this, where you've got your row of smokers here, with then a row of hoppers underneath, then two rows of hoppers on top, and a single row of hoppers behind. Now we're going to go ahead and do the final row of hoppers because you notice we've got a few more left. So what you're going to go ahead and do is go all the way around here and go to the final smoker. And what you're going to do after that is go to this final hopper over here that goes into the last smoker and place 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. Now notice how these 2 blocks leave the border. Don't worry about that because what's going to go on these 2 blocks is completely optional, so you can ignore what I put on these 2 blocks if you really want to. Then you're going to go ahead and on these 2 blocks over here, you're going to place some hoppers. Now just make sure that these hoppers go into this direction. So just like I'm doing here, make sure you pick out your hoppers from over here and make sure that the hoppers face towards each other going in the direction of the farm, just like that. And you're going to place 2 chests on top of that. So if I go grab our scaffolding, go up, you're going to go ahead, go on top of this hopper here, place down a chest, and just using your temporary blocks, place a block behind that, and place a chest there so that you don't shift and it will become a double chest, just like I've done there. And so you have your fuel storage, just like that. And while we're still working over here, you might as well do the little optional part, which is making that little lamp here, little indicator on whether or not your system is backed up. So you're just going to place a comparator here with a little redstone lamp, just as an indicator if you guys really want it. And that will just let you guys know when to refuel your farm once again. Now we still got 27 hoppers left here, so we're gonna go ahead and finish this off. So at this back hopper here, which is right next to the fuel intake, you're gonna go ahead and place a hopper. Now this hopper should go directly down into this back hopper. Then you're gonna do what basically we did at the top, and you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and start creating a little row down here. Now these hoppers down here will start going into the sides of that down hopper. So if you look over here, that hopper there is going straight down, but all of these are going into the sides because that is the final place it can go. So that one must go down there. Now if we just continue that chain over here, you have to be very careful with this part that I'm just about to do here. So you're gonna go here. Now you notice that you see you got the chain, but the corner is a little bit larger than usual. So you're gonna actually use 3 hoppers for this corner. So you're gonna go out one more hopper, go out another hopper, and then turn so that you're right up against this here. Then you're gonna place down another hopper, and then you're gonna be back above these hoppers once again, and then you can just continue. Place your hoppers down here, and if you just jump off so I can show you guys how this will look like, you'll see that we've got only one hopper there feeding down with all the other hoppers there feeding into each other, and no other hopper should be going down. So now if we go back up on here, we can just continue the hopper chain. So you jump back up, your hoppers just continue feeding them into each other, and then once you come back to this corner, you're going to go ahead use 3 hoppers per corner and go 1, 2, 3, and those should be above really nothing. Then you continue your final 7 hoppers down here, and you continue just so that they're connected up to the fuel storage, and just like that, you've got no more hoppers left, and that's basically all the hopper work done. And that's basically the hard part of the farm done. And that was just getting those hopper placements right so that nothing messes up. Now once you've done that, everything is basically plain sailing from there. So if you just come on down to the main platform, and this is where we basically start completing the farm. So if you go to the triangular pyramid shape over here, and you place 2 temporary blocks just like I've done there, then you want to break this block here. And those 2 temporary blocks are just to help you guys find this block here. And you're just going to place a crafting table down where that block was. Then you can go ahead, destroy these two blocks here. You've got your crafting table there. Then destroy the block behind the crafting table, and you should see a single piece of redstone dust. This redstone dust shouldn't, go on. It should just be there and it should stop there. And that's just letting you guys know that it's aligned. If it's not there, then you've done something wrong. Then go ahead, place your stone pressure plate above that. Once you've done all of that, go ahead, grab your glass now. And you're going to go ahead, place 1, 2, 1, 2 on either side, and then place another one there and another one here. Then continue this up over here, just like this. Continue it 2 more up so that it's 3 by 3 on both sides, just like that. Then you're going to go ahead and place one more glass block in between those so that it's a little walkway. Just imagine that it's a little walkway with the pressure plate in between, just like that. At this point here, you're basically almost done. You can remove all temporary blocks now, basically, and then go ahead and pull out 3 ladders, and you can go ahead and attach this to the side of the farm. And this will be your way on top to access all of these milkers here. And then with your remaining glass, go ahead and fill the space in over here at the same level of these hoppers. And once you're complete with that, you'll see that that was the exact amount of glass blocks needed, and you'll have no more left over. Then go ahead and then grab your glass pane and grab your 2 water buckets. Now what you're going to go ahead and do is place a water bucket on the end there between those 2 droppers, just like that, and one on that side as well. And then everything that comes out of the droppers will automatically flow down here. Then the glass pane will be used over here, just 1 block away from the path over here, on top of this crafting table, and just from the ceiling, you're gonna go ahead and place that. And you can't really see it, but that's just gonna stop the player from getting stuck in this area over here, and so that the water also will not escape from this pressure plate. And you'll notice that you're basically done. You've got your 2 empty buckets, your scaffolding for the building, and your temporary blocks. And of course, just the blocks that you mined out. Then of course, the only thing that you'll have left is 2 spare levers and a single block. Now what you're going to do is quickly grab some of your scaffolding, and these will just be the on-off levers over here. So you're going to place a lever down over here, and you're going to go on top of this here, and place a block over here, and place a lever down there. And then just like that, your whole farm is complete and you built it. You built your whole farm and that's it. It was pretty simple, guys, and it was probably very easy for you guys to build as well. And just under 10 minutes or so, we built this farm and it's completely functional. You can stand on this pressure plate, you can hear the droppers going off. You've got your crafting table, you can even go up this ladder over here and access the XP bank. And I've already explained to you guys how to operate the farm itself, use the levers, how the XP bank works. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and hopefully this farm will be super useful for you guys if you ever build it for yourselves. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.